used to ask you a lot of disturbing questions, but it was always on behalf of the team. We learned how to deal with each other. You were one of the modern administrators, very strong, with a strong personality and charisma. You did everything for the team because you were a football lover. I will never forget when you rented the whole flight for us to I think it was from Zurich or Geneva to Algiers, more precisely Tlemcen, for us to be comfortable and play the match, which was a World Cup qualifier for the World Cup 1994. But we lost under very unfortunate circumstances. But it is what it is. It was an experience, and I would say experience and memories are something you cannot take away from a human. For all your advices, after we even got closer than during my career, you have a lot of wisdom, and you are a great man. Once again, happy 70th birthday. I wish you health. My regards to your wonderful family, and keep well and keep safe. Yes, I need to add, whenever Chairman speaks to you on the phone or sees you, the first words which come out of his mouth are, what's in then? Biba Boko. Biba Boko. Take care, Chairman. Remain blessed. Thank you.
Nana Bru Butler, happy birthday. You've always been my favorite FA chairman. You did well for the team. And I remember the time you took us to Tlemcen when we went through Switzerland, when you rented a jet to take us to Tlemcen. It's true that we never had a good result, but all those good things remain wonderful memories. Mr. Butler, you are a man of your words, and you are a man of integrity. I respect you. I salute. Happy birthday.
So that is a message. These are two messages from Tony Bafo and Abedi Pele celebrating Nana Sam Bru Butler, the former FA of the former Ghana FA chairman who won the Under-17 FIFA World Cup for the second time with Ghana. So big salutes to you once again, Nana Sam Bru Butler. We love you so much, and we really do duly acknowledge and pay a lot of respects to every single thing that you've done in terms of sacrifice for the nation, in our football. These two legends have attested to some of the sacrifices you made during an era where headline sponsorship was not the way to go for the Black Stars. So the likes of you paved the way for headline sponsorship and resources and logistics to come in, for the Black Stars team. So today, on behalf of the Joy Sports team, we salute you once again, Nana Sam Bru Butler, and you deserve every single bit of celebration that you're due on this day, or on this special week that you celebrate your 70th milestone. All right, so let's go back to that E.T. Mensah song, and I'll tell you the reason why we're starting with an E.T. Mensah song here on the Joy Sports link. For those of you of the millennial generation, it's very important that you pay attention to this. E.T. Mensah. Okay, so my producer Benaya Elom Dafiamekpo is nodding to this one. Clearly, his generation is that appreciates, Afro beats and all of that. But this is the start of the song, a song called "All for You," another rendition of it put together by the legendary E.T. Mensah, and E.T. Mensah was one of C.K. Gyamfi's favorite artists, and this is something he revealed to me, years ago when we used to have a show called Sporting Life here on Joy99.7 FM, and Sporting Life used to play on drive time between 3:50 and 4 p.m. It used to profile the lives of great people, in sport, not only in sport, but great people in our country. So that brings me to the conversation this afternoon, and as I have already mentioned, today is a day of celebration and a day of a history lesson. Now, I've got two of the sons of the legendary C.K. Gyamfi here with me. Now, Edwin Gyamfi is the elder of the two, and he was around. He was very conscious at the time when his father was, in the thick of national affairs as head coach. And also, Patrick Gyamfi played, with his dad as coach, played under his dad as coach. And this was both in Kenya and Somalia during his exploits there. So this is a bit of a background to it. Fifi Adaman is a sports journalist, and he's worked with major platforms from Kwese TV through to multimedia and other platforms, and has also received international recognition for his work. He's the man who is the official biographer for this project. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me here. It's good to see you.
Thank you very much.
It's been a while, and we're getting together. After 7 years? I remember the last time we spoke was during your dad's state burial.
Correct. I do remember that very clearly.
Yeah, sure. And we're glad that he was given a very fitting send off as well, and paid maximum respects from the nation. Okay, so many things to talk about, but later we'll be getting on the phone lines as well to talk to persons who came across him. One of them is Mr. Jamil Marabi, who's the first marketing director of the Ghana FA, who used his private outfit, which is Avanti Solutions, to partner what became the Ghana Soccer Coaches Association. So, C.K. Gyamfi is the founding president of the Ghana Soccer Coaches Association. I was there as well at his residence in North Kanishi when this was done. So, don't mess with me. Okay, look, there's so much to talk about. I'll try my best to see to put it all together. What kind of father was he?
Right. Okay. Yeah. He was a disciplinarian in so many ways, and he was one who obviously did not want any of his children to play football.
Okay.
Yeah. His emphasis was education. Yeah. Basically, his approach was you have to have a career that has longevity. And then longevity comes through having to be a professional, an academic or something of the sort, because of obviously the footballer's career was pretty short in so many ways.
And especially considering that in their time, football was played as an amateur sport here in Ghana, so nobody really made any sense of it. Mm-hmm. How did you find it? I mean, at that time, obviously, the younger generation did not question parents and all of that. So, were you okay with it? Did you think otherwise? Did you disagree with him saying that? Because this is a man who had made major achievements and was within football. Why didn't he want you to play?
Well, I mean, if you think about it, I mean, in that era, what your father says
is final.
It's final. So, I mean, all of us could play anyway.
Yeah.
So we did our things, secretly.
Okay. Did you ever get caught?
Well, we all played for coach teams at some point, and luckily, because our father used to be spends probably about 6 to 8 months of the year, either or he's on a course in Germany or in Brazil, or he's taking the Black Stars elsewhere. So that was the the period that we were free to, do the things that we thought we were good at, and obviously playing colds. And
so this means that your mom connived with you to do these things, because she probably would have known about it.
She turned a blind eye completely. Yeah, he's not here. You can go and play that game. When he comes back, that's it. He doesn't want to know. Don't even tell him that you're a star for a Colts team. I said no.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Interesting stuff. If you just joined us, we're celebrating the life of the legendary C.K. Gyamfi, Nana Kumi Gyamfi the first, who, is a major block within the silverware history of our nation. And he's also a major block when it comes to the foundations of our football in this country. So there's a lot to talk about today, especially as we're building up to the launch of his autobiography. The man who put all of it together, put pen to paper, is here in the studio as well. Fifi, I'm sure that when you eventually decided to get on this project, you're going to tell us about that story in a bit, but you felt a lot of weight on your shoulders.
Oh yes, definitely. I think more afterwards, after he died, than before.
Okay.
Because I always knew about C.K. Gyamfi, but I didn't know as much. Obviously, when his name is mentioned, 3 AFCON titles, so he's a legend.
Yeah.
But it was after he died that I really dug into his past, and most of the work on the book was done after he died anyway.
Yeah.
So I really got into his playing career. For instance, a lot of people know him as a great coach, but they don't know his exploits on the pitch. And if you go through the papers of the 50s, you'll be amazed by some of the rave reviews that he got. At the point, the Daily Graphic called him Ghana's greatest ever player. And I was thinking, wow, I always knew him as somebody whose achievements were more tilted towards the dugout. And to find out that he was really great as a footballer and nobody was talking about it, I found it really interesting. Now, as to how I got involved with the project, I had an interview with him in 2013 for Go.com, and it was posted online, and then I got a message from Edwin on Facebook, who said that he loved the interview, and he told me that he would want to talk to me when he came to Ghana. So he came around, and then he told me that his dad had been working on an autobiography for as long as he could remember. This dating back to the 70s. And that he and his brothers felt that with the way that I write, they really want me involved in the project. And the backstory to this was, I had first met C.K. Gyamfi in 2009. As a young boy, I was in Achimota school then, and my dad took me to go see him because I told my dad I wanted to become a coach. Okay. So he took me to go see him. We had a conversation, and after the conversation, I asked him, does he have any book detailing his career? Because I would really want to read it. Then he says, he's working on a book which is coming out at the end of 2009, so I should expect it. So I was really excited about it. Of course, 2009 passed. It didn't happen. Up until 2013, after my interview with him, I asked him, Nana, what about the book? He says, it's still coming out 2013. I should expect it. So, okay. So the next time I heard about the book, I was going to be involved in it. So that's the whole story about that. And since then, it's been a roller coaster journey of research, of, back and forth, trying to get the best material possible. I believe that if this project had happened as originally scheduled in 2015, we wouldn't have had this body of material. So I think that the timing is perfect. It now reads like a history of Ghana football, which was essentially C.K. Gyamfi. He was involved in everything. So it's only fitting that his document sort of I always say he's consubstantial with Ghana football. You mention Ghana football and you can't escape the name C.K. Gyamfi. So this, for me, it's a project that will have a lot of impact in terms of telling how far we've come in terms of our football. Yes.
Edwin Gyamfi, Patrick Gyamfi, sons of the legendary C.K. Gyamfi, and Fifi Anna, who is the official biographer for the project. The book, The Black Star, which details the exploits and the thoughts of a man who set the foundations of Ghana football alive. Send in your messages. It's 055-1111-997. 055-1111-997. And as has always been tradition here on the show, we would give you the opportunity later on to call and articulate your thoughts about this subject and this great gentleman who has laid a very big foundation for all of us to benefit from. Now, I'm very interested in the bit about you playing under your father. I mean, did you feel any? I mean, did you have any airs around your? I mean, did you have any chips above your shoulder? I mean, your father was the coach. It's just like sitting in an aircraft which is being piloted by your father. You know? Tell me about it.
First of all, you have to understand that when we left Ghana, football was not on the agenda for me.
Okay.
No two ways.
Okay.
But my dad didn't know that I could play.
Okay.
I mean, when I was in primary school, he knew that we played football,
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. But he didn't know I could actually play. And when we went to Somalia first, I always went to the training sessions.
Okay, and with Somalia, let's be specific for the benefit of our listeners. This was a coaching stint that he had.
It's
with
a
one of the
coaching
clubs
stint,
there.
yeah, and
Right.
also helped develop the country in football wise. Yeah, so I trained, and I mean, I did not train with the boys because I wasn't allowed to. I'm not a player,
Okay.
so I just played on the sidelines with the kids.
I see.
Yeah, because my dad was not expecting me because when I was in Ghana, I was a kid. He took me to go and watch the training sessions. So I'm just here to watch the training sessions.
Okay.
So I just played with the kids, but the players knew that I could play.
Okay.
So one time we were playing what we call a collective, a game, before a match. And then one of the players got injured. And the player said, "Why didn't you try your son?" My dad said, "No." And no, we coach, just for 5-10 minutes. And the rest is in the book.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. What position were you playing at the time?
I was playing left midfield, and I could also play center, and also play second striker.
Oh, I see.
I was very versatile.
Utility.
Yeah.
Wow, that's interesting. I see. So the rest?
And it was by merit.
Okay.
Serious merit.
Okay. But without wanting to let much out, I'm very interested in the first thing he said to you after that game and when you two were together for the first time after that game. Tell us about that.
I'll tell you. It's very interesting. We sat in a car, went back home. My mom was also around.
Were you scared he was going to say something?
I didn't know. I was.
Yeah.
He said nothing.
Because this meant that you had been doing something very actively, on his blind side.
On his blind side, exactly. Yeah. So we sat in the car from the training pitch to the house, and he said nothing.
You were itching, I'm sure.
And I was saying, didn't I do well? I mean, what have I done? Have I embarrassed him? So when we reached the house, he just went straight into the room the bedroom to speak to my mom. And then later, my mom called me and said, I'm called Nidodu. She said, Nidodu, braha. Now, when you hear braha, there's trouble.
Yeah.
So my dad just left and went to the living room. And then my mom said, Dad, I said, and that was a shock to me.
Wow.
Yeah. So I went to the living room, hoping that I'll get some, some comments, some praises and things.
Comments, yeah.
All I just got was a smile, a sheepish smile, and then I said, Dad, can I come for training sessions with you now on the pitch? And he just nodded. Yes. End of story.
Wow.
The rest is in the book.
Wow, the rest is in the book. Interesting stuff there. Very shortly, we'll be joined by Jamil Marabi, who is the marketing director of the Ghana Football Association. He worked very closely with CK Gyamfi, Nanakomi Gyamfi, in the early to mid 2000s when the Ghana Soccer Coaches Association was formed. Now, CK Gyamfi is also the founding president of the Ghana Soccer Coaches Association. All right, now let's talk about living with a father who was in charge of a national team that was performing at that level and making all those big achievements. What was it like?
Probably about 9 or 10 years ago, when Achimota. We're having one of our dinner dances, and I was asked to
Achimota School.
Achimota School.
Very
Yeah.
well.
And I was asked to kind of pen something about my dad. So I wrote an article called "Living with a Legend," it's basically chronicled from the time that we were very, very young, when the likes of Edward Aqua, Griffin, Jones, the house was a hub of celebrities.
I see.
Yeah. So basically, and these were people that, you know, we went just past them as little boys and little kids, but we had no inkling of you know the
kind of weight they had.
greatness of the people that we were kind of engaging with. So yes, in those early days, it was, you know, life was a bit quite exciting and stuff. But then as soon as those celebrities leave the house, it comes the disciplinarian takes place. Yeah, the house comes back to order, and everyone has to fit into that order. Yeah. And he was very fair as well. I mean, you know, 8 boys. To manage 8 boys, you have to have a system. So he managed that system with my mom, and you know, his emphasis on education and achievement through education is what really what was at the forefront of our development as children. And again, I did mention that he wasn't at home most of the times. Okay. You know, he spent lots of time with the stars or Black Stars, or he's traveling around, and you know. So I can't even remember a year that we spent like 4 or 5 months in the same house with him.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow. So that was our upbringing in so many ways, and we were all talented footballers. You know, we're all very, very, very good. I mean, there was always a debate as to who was better than who. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it was an interesting, you know, period with him. He did his parental duties like a man born in 1929 will do. You know, very, you know, strict Victorian colonial kind of disciplinarian attitude, and some of us rebelled from time to time. Yeah.
I see. Yeah. And what was the price for rebelling? The price you paid for rebelling?
The price you paid for rebellion. Yeah, I mean, and at that time that he couldn't kind of, he wasn't too fast to kind of get you and whip you.
Yeah.
Because we were all kind of grown a bit bigger and stuff. He just blindsides you. Exactly. Yeah. He probably won't talk to you for a week or two, and you know, you don't exist as far as he's concerned. Wow. But the good thing is, as soon as your report from school arrives, and he looks at it and it's like the A's and the A's and the A's and stuff like that, then he's smiling. Then you'll be lucky to get a birthday present.
Wow.
Yeah.
Let's take a bit more from Fifi. Now you tell me about some of the things that struck you the most. I mean, you've been talking about digging into the past, his exploits as a player. You know, he's celebrated and recognized greatly in Ghana for being the first African to have played in Germany. And for those of us who appreciate, even though we're not born at the time, we appreciate the geopolitics of the world at the time. You know, what went into seeing a black man on a stage such as the German League. You know, it was a big deal.
Yeah. Yes. CK Gyamfi was the first African to play in Germany. You know, this was at a time where it was next to impossible for something like that to happen. He had a career of many firsts. First indigenous coach of the Black Stars, first captain of the Black Stars. You know, so that's what I found interesting about his story, which is that this was a man who found himself in the thick of affairs in any watershed event in terms of the development of Ghana football. Sure. If you talk about the switch from playing barefoot to boots, CK Gyamfi was a pioneer with Chris Bryant.
I remember those days. I remember that story. He told me that story.
Exactly. If you talk about the first Gold Coast national team that toured UK in 51, CK Gyamfi was in there. The next Black Stars team that toured Eastern Europe, CK Gyamfi was in there, and he was the only surviving member from 51 to have been part of 61. If you talk about the Jalco Cup, the first time the Jalco Cup was staged in Accra in 1953, Ghana, Nigeria, Accra Sports Stadium, first international match at the Accra Sports Stadium, 1-0 to Ghana, or the Gold Coast. CK Gyamfi was the scorer of that goal, and he says that it was the best match that he ever played in his life. You know, he became a celebrity afterwards. He won Sportsman of the Year after that particular goal. If you talk about the 7-0 win over Nigeria, 55, CK Gyamfi was in there. I think he even scored a hat-trick also.
And a lot of reference was made about this Jalco Cup, especially about a month and a half ago when Ghana had to play Nigeria.
Yes.
And the social media war was buzzing and people were talking about who was the better side.
And you know, Ghana-Nigeria is considered to be one of the world's biggest rivalries in terms of football. And it started with the Jalco Cup. And if you read the book, you get to know about the excitement, you know, the debates in the papers about which players are coming, the strategies, how the Nigerians are going to enter Ghana, you know, tales of, you know, all these talks before the games. You know, and he recounts a particular Jalco Cup in Lagos in 58, which is, for me, is one of the best chapters in the book. I don't want to give away too much, but Ghana lost that particular one, and CK Gyamfi was captain and coach. He was captain and coach of that side because the story was that the Black Stars, or the Ghana national team's first coach, called George Ainsley.
Ainsley, yes.
Yes, he had been sacked by Ohinijan over a misunderstanding that they had. And so the team had no coach going into the game. And guess what? They called a meeting of the players and they asked
E.C. Bryant, the late E.C. Bryant,
everybody in there, they were like, who should lead you as a coach? CK Gyamfi. So that's how the whole thing started. So he went to Lagos with a team, and the rest is in the book, as they would say. He trained in Germany as a coach at the same time that he was playing for Fortuna Düsseldorf. That's a lot of things that people don't know. So the story is that he went to Fortuna and played for them, but whilst he was playing football, he was training at the Hennef Sports School. You know, he had experience training under the likes of Sepp Herberger, who won the World Cup in 1954, I believe. He came back. He was made deputy national coach under Joseph Emba. Then he was taken through the ranks. So CK Gyamfi he breathed football. Everything about it. There's a part of the book where he talks about how people in life, you know, talk about their degrees and stuff like that. He earned everything in football. So I find it interesting when his children are speaking and they say that he never wanted them to play football because that was his life. And I guess there are certain things that he saw with the sport on the negative side that he didn't want his children to, because he went through a lot. Imagine being the leading man, you know, in terms of football in Ghana. He coach, captain. Imagine the criticism. So there's this point where he talks about juju in football, and you know, being one of the leaders of the Black Stars, he had to see a lot of things that he didn't want to experience. So imagine all of these things. He didn't want his children to go through some of the things that he went through. The politics, you know, with Ohinijan, with Kwame Nkrumah at a certain point, you know. So it was a pressure situation what he went through, and it's amazing how he was able to excel at everything that came his way. So that's what I found interesting about him, the fact that everything that you want to talk about in terms of Ghana's football development, there is CK Gyamfi.
Now, on hindsight, gentlemen, do you feel that maybe you should have just, damned the consequences and played some football?
Okay, so I think it's good to kind of put into perspective the success of footballers, African footballers, in the world at large at this point in time. It was only in the early 80s that we started hearing of African footballers, playing in Europe who are being paid quite reasonable amount of money, isn't it? Or not even reasonable. I mean, at the time it was right at the top of the bandwidth of salaries and stuff like that. And it was only a small number who were actually being remunerated that well. And coinciding with our kind of ages as well, obviously it was a gamble to put all your energies and your time and your resource into football, and if you don't end up being at the very top of your game, you come out without a career. Yeah, you basically would have wasted so many years that you could have used to delve yourself into some kind of a profession or something of the sort. So he didn't want us to go. He didn't want any risk as far as that's concerned. But I also joked that he didn't want us in any space, because there was a lot happening in football at that time. I mean, Fifi has alluded to some of those things in terms of in the pressure cog, of having to having success and others trying to diminish you, and going through some roller coasters of life, testing you to your very limit. He thought, listen, I think if I just get these guys to work on their education, they don't have to face all of that politics, because there was a lot of politics. I mean, some of it is in the book. I said there's a lot of politics, and we know that because we felt it. When he wasn't happy, then nobody's happy in the house, and then so we knew the politics that was going on in sports, and then also, I mean, of course, your wife.
There still is a lot of politics.
Yes, absolutely. But yeah. So we as a family, my mom obviously knows exactly what's going on. Actually, she had nicknames for all of them. I'm not going to name names, but she had derogatory nicknames for everybody, kind of thing. So yeah, I suppose that was one of the reasons why it's like, hey, let me stick to what I do best, and then you guys find your way elsewhere, in education, blah 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 blah. Yeah, so that's that's the flavor.
Interesting stuff. Remember, it's 055-111-1997. We're celebrating the life of CK Gyamfi, who, amongst many other things, won 3 of Ghana's 4 Africa Cup of Nations titles. Well, that one in 1978 also saw him contribute greatly as technical director, and one of the players who benefited from his knowledge during that era and in that conquest of Africa will also be joining us. The legendary coach Willie Kluche will be joining us later. But right now, I'd want to turn the focus on his son-in-law. Jamil Marabi is the marketing director of the Ghana Football Association, and he worked very closely with CK Gyamfi in establishing and starting off the Ghana Soccer Coaches Association. Jamil, it's good to have you on the show. It's been a while, and thank you so much for your time this afternoon on the Joy Sports Link.
Okay, my greetings to the family.
Great. I'm just throwing back to early to mid 2000s when you started the project of putting together the Ghana Soccer Coaches Association. I mean, tell me about the impressions that the legend made on you at the time, and how much passion he had about getting all coaches in Ghana together for a common cause.
Yes, thank you. I mean, you're bringing back memories. At that point in time when I first met him, I was being mentored by Coach Samadi. And I remember Coach Samadi told me that he wanted to CK Gyamfi. Did I know CK Gyamfi? I was like, hey, no, I don't know him, but he's a legend. I mean, we know of him. I said, yes. So we're going to go to his house in North K, and then you're going to have a meeting with him, and we're going to, he was going to introduce me to him, and we were going to tell him that I was going to be part of the project, the new project they wanted to do. Because at that time I was very much involved in the marketing, and it was possible that I was going to be able to get sponsors to support this new project that we're doing. So it was actually an awe for me that I was going to be taken to go and meet him. But very humble, a very humble man, and he seemed very disciplined. You could tell immediately that his yes was yes, his no was no. But at the same time, there was a soft, very, very subtle, soft touch about him. You know, it was quite an honor. And I never, during my period when I was interacting with him, I didn't see him get angry. I don't know whether he got angry at other times, but during my interaction, I never saw him angry. He just wanted to help and give back. And I mean, lots of knowledge he had, and he wanted to give back, and we all gravitated by him.
Interesting stuff there. When you look back, at what amount of work went into bringing all the coaches together, and I remember very well that there was a lot of enthusiasm at the time. You know, younger coaches who were looking forward to upgrading themselves and all of that. You know, and having that one big voice led by Nana Gyamfi was a great thing at the time. Tell me the key lessons you have learned from him, you know, aside the discipline. Tell me the key lessons you have learned from him, especially when it comes to the football conversation. You know, tell us about what you learned during your interactions with him and working with him very closely.
No, I mean, what I learned was that you always have to give back. You know, that stuck to me, you know, in my earlier days, and it's still with me till today, because there was nothing he was gaining from it. You know, he offered us his home. We used to do it in his home.
Yeah,
and do the whole setup. Yes, and like you said, he was the key to getting all the coaches to be united and come under one umbrella. He started it, you know, and he always used to say that he had to, before he passed, he had to give his knowledge to the people and not to be divided. He didn't like the fact, at that time, if you remember, the coaches were really divided. You had other camps, like every coach had their camp. But when we started this project, and he was the head of it, we all seemed to gravitate and come under one umbrella. It was a really united project that he led. And from all that, I think he has taught me that you always have to give back. What you know and what you have, you can't keep it to yourself. You must share it. So that's what I took from him. Until today, it stuck with me.
Great stuff. Jamel, thank you so much. We're grateful for your time here on the Joy Sports Link.
Thank you so much for having me.
Okay, so Anga, he says that he never saw him go. I'm like, come and ask his son. How did he manage pressure? I mean, sometimes we look at, you know, our coaches. We watch football, you know, from all over the world, from different destinations around the world, and we see those who have habits like smoking, you know, those who exhibit a lot of, you know, nerves from the dugout. There are those who interestingly also would just, you know, fold their arms and watch, no matter how bad it's going, or no matter how many goals they've scored. They just keep it very, very calm and cool. How did he manage the pressure and soak it, especially in the days when conversations have to go with the likes of Ohenejan, who was then the Secretary of Sport, and the President, Osajifo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah?
I think Patrick Cook will take on the issue of how his emotional management during games and his demeanor and stuff like that.
Sure.
Because obviously he played under him, and I'm sure he's got some interesting stuff to say. But in terms of the his relationship with the likes of Ohenejan and Kwame Nkrumah, Ohenejan was very kind of domineering in so many ways. Was a very dominant figure, and he did quite a lot of good stuff for Ghana. Pushed us through hoops and loops to project us onto the African stage and continent with an amazing development plan as well. But his dominance meant that he will step over some toes and he will interfere with areas that he should not. let's say, technical kind of areas to that effect. And I must admit that he was quite bold when he was dealing with interference, as far as trying to interfere with his projects. I mean, because he knew that he was actually delivering the best that you can get around. So in that respect, I mean, his professional relationship with his those above and was very. He had good rapport. He had good communication, but he was very assertive in that direction, and that kind of translated to even when he was he had his team. It was his man management relationship was absolutely excellent. I mean, the likes of Kwesiapia will, always attest to that, and then Jones as well. Jones took a few. So he had those kind of excellent management skills, but he wouldn't suffer fools gladly, and ensured that discipline was the number one key to get a team to kind of gel and progress in the direction that you are actually, that you want them to. So in a nutshell, that was his character. But then again, it wasn't very different from home as well. I mean, I think the Jamil did say that he never saw him angry. I honestly never saw him angry as well, but he had a way of disciplining you without showing anger. Yeah, so that was the man.
I mean, with regards to his relationship with authority and interference and all of that, I also found it interesting how he dealt with certain things. Edwin mentioned that with Ohinijan, for instance, he was a larger-than-life figure. If
definitely
you hear tales about Ohinijan, you know how influential he was. He was the man. So
he was Dr. Kwame Nkrumah's right-hand man.
Yes.
So
very
if you
powerful
pinched
man.
him, you pinched the president.
Exactly. And CK Gyamfi happened to work with Ohinijan, and Ohinijan would say, "I want this player in the side." There's this interesting story at one of the AFCONs, right, where they played their first game, and then Charles Ado-Damiti, who was a former captain of the Black Stars, he messes up, and then Ohinijan approaches CK Gyamfi and says, "Boy, no, so you drop him." CK Gyamfi doesn't think that he has to drop him, but he has to manage the situation well and say, if you look at Ohinijan, he's a very, very powerful man. How do I manage the situation? It's not always about it's my right. Sometimes you have to look at the situation, read it, and know how to deal with it. So he made a promise to himself and said, you know what, because of the fact that I don't want our campaign to be derailed by a potential bust up with Ohinijan, let me just drop Ado and bring in another player. So he did that. The other player came in and messed up completely. So he went back to Ohinijan and said, you see, let me do. And there's this other instance where during the height of military rule in the 70s, military people used to manage everything, and he suspended some players of the Black Stars, and then there was this military man who came to him and said, you can't do that. And CK Gyamfi stood by his right.
Well,
and then he lost his job.
It's very true during that era, because my late father-in-law was a legendary referee and was also a major in the army. So he served as a vice president of the Ghana FA. The late Major Asiedu Teku, Jonathan Asiedu Teku, who also served as the paramount chief of the Drobo traditional area. He died 4 years ago. I'm sure they met some way, somehow.
At a point,
I didn't know that I would have mentioned him to the old man.
Yeah,
of course.
Yeah.
Look, so that just brings it to this point where you do realize that some of the problems that we face, or some of the phenomena that exist today, are not things that started today, because issues of interference, the government's choice of who leads the Black Stars as coach, who plays and wears the jersey, all of these things, clearly from the accounts that we're hearing, are things that have existed for donkey years.
Yes, that's very. When it comes to Ghana football, it has been deeply political from the get-go. from the Gold Coast era who was going to be captain of the team. You know, E.C. Bryant was captain of the team.
Yes, and there was a very controversial matter.
Yes. E.C. Bryant actually became captain at a point where there was a senior player called Tim Daba who was suspended during the UK tour. E.C. Bryant became captain. And even with CK Gyamfi, there was a point where Edward Agrafin had to be stripped of his captaincy for CK Gyamfi to return as captain. So there's always been that kind of thing now. But one thing I loved about CK Gyamfi was how easily he maneuvered his way around all of these politics. You know, it's a skill to be able to be. There's a point in the book where he talks about his relationship with other players, and you know, he talks about footballers and egos and peculiar personalities, and how he found ways of dealing with each and every player, and how it helped him as a coach. And he mentioned specifically that for him, a lot of people ask him about what makes a successful coach, and they expect him to go on about, you know, pressing and 4-4-2 and, you know, tiki-taka and all of that. But for him, it goes deeper than that. It's about understanding your players. It's about managing your players. You know, so if you're a coach who knows all of these tactics and strategies, and you can't manage a footballer, you can't win. And he mentioned something interesting about if you want to win things, you need to win over your players first. It was very important. He mentioned about how you don't necessarily have to earn their affection, because human beings are very funny. But you need to be on the same plane with them in terms of what you want to achieve. And it's very rare to have somebody manage a team of 11 players on different backgrounds, different temperaments, different psychological makeups, and be able to put them together to win a football game. A lot of people underestimate how difficult that is. The job of a coach is very, very difficult. And that is what I also found fascinating about him, how he was able to manage situations. Like I was mentioning, he knew when to assert himself and when to stay back, when to be humble, when to, you know, that kind of thing. And that really, really served him well throughout his career.
Messages are very, very welcome. Okay, let's do this one. Hello, Nats. Good afternoon. I'm enjoying the conversation, but when are you also going to interview and celebrate Abedi Pele's children called the Ayew and Jordan, the Ayew brothers who played for Ghana's Black Stars? William from Shukura. Thank you very much. Well, okay, so there are different, there are different stages of the conversation when it comes to our football journey. Now, we are talking about a founding father here. The young players that you've talked about, yes, they're playing their role currently as players of the Black Stars. They are not yet done with their respective careers. This is somebody who has laid foundations, contributed to the journey, won silverware, and gone to rest. And today we're celebrating the major document that will be released to capture this journey, which obviously is a very elaborate and flamboyant journey, but which has this very subtle and rather simple feel to it. So that's why we're doing this. The time for the Ayew, the younger version of the Ayew family, will come, and that will come. And when it comes, we surely will talk about it, as we always do. This book will be exciting. I can't wait to read it. Thank you very much, Douglas from Tema. Now let's do this other one. Good afternoon, guys. The issue of people not going to our stadia are many. Okay, we're not discussing issues of people not going to our stadia. So let's bring in the messages that are relevant. Okay, Citizen Nat, shouts to the legend's sons. North Kanishi is in the building. This is from Edem in North Kanishi. Okay, yeah, area codes must definitely represent, and I agree with you 3,000,001 times. Yeah, the area codes must represent. Okay, so 0302. Okay, sorry, it's plus 233 5511119997. So 05511119997. Get on our Facebook pages as well. You can place the messages there. We'll be glad to read them and share with everybody else. Very shortly, we'll be getting on the phone line to speak to Coach Willie Kluche, who is a member of the 1978 Africa Cup of Nations winning squad. Now, he willingly accepted at a rather short time to be a part of this conversation, obviously because of the kind of passion that he has for the man we're discussing, and the kind of impact that he made on him as well. Okay, so we've learned one major thing here, that phenomena has always existed, and for all we know, it was even worse back in the time. How do you all feel about the fact that, after these major achievements, we still haven't been able to get it right? I'm talking about the Africa Cup of Nations.
I think it's quite. Personally, I feel very sad about it, because I think the old man really wanted a conveyor belt of our own coaches to be developed. So maybe there's something missing. There must be a chunk missing somewhere that we are not doing. But records are made to be broken. So the old man really would have wanted a continuity of our own people winning things. I remember in 2009, he sat down with me and said, "Look, Patrick, we've had all these coaches coming in and leaving, these foreign coaches. But if you look at the history of all our winners, they were all,
Yeah, so definitely in our history of winning major silverware, Otto Pfister is the only foreign coach who lifted a major silverware with Ghana, and I'm talking about the Under-17 FIFA World Cup in 1991 in Italy. And even with that, a lot of preparatory work was done by Coach Ike Afrani of blessed memory. Coach Ike Afrani of blessed memory. So at the time, Ike Afrani assisted him. But then, in terms of the preparatory work and getting the players ready for the tournament, it was Ike Afrani. I do remember, Mohamed Gago telling me about how he got selected into the Black Starlets team. He said he went to the training camp. Ike Afrani just took a look at him, just kept looking at him, and said, "You know something? Put the ball down." He put the ball down. "Kick and let me see." He struck the ball the first time. He said, "Put the ball down again." He said, "Kick again." He kicked a second time, and that was it. He said, "You are selected." That was the end of his justifier. And that clearly showed you that there was a production of a generation of coaches of different skin. I mean, people who lived and breathed the game, just like CK Gyamfi taught all of us. Well, let's get on the phone line now and have a conversation with Coach Willie Kluche, a man who's also now a legend because of what he also benefited in terms of learning from CK Gyamfi. Thank you very much, Coach, and it's great to have you here on the show.
Thank you, my brother. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks so much for asking. Now, you were part of a sterling generation, clearly because the kind of achievements that you made in the time, added to the other ones that were made, the other three, have remained, our biggest achievements to date. Now, tell me about working under, you, the young player at the time, working under the legendary CK Gyamfi, and what his leadership role as a coach meant to you as a player.
Thank you very much. CK Gyamfi, when we are talking about Ghana football, he is our father. Because those guys are guys that we were looking up to when we were growing up, and we wanted to play football. We wanted to play football like CK Gyamfi, Infum, and those big guys. So I was lucky for him to pick me into the Black Stars. I first went to the Black Meteors, and I was playing also for the Black Stars. And he always spent time with me, advising me, and for me to realize my qualities that I have in football and how to behave and grow up and become a responsible footballer. Not only that, but I look back and I look at his history back in the days when they started Gold Coast 11, before Kwame Nkrumah turned into Ghana Blasters. He was playing the game, and Kwame Nkrumah selected about 3 of them, sent them to Germany to go and learn the game and come back and come and introduce new systems into our game. Because during those days, Kwame Nkrumah was using Blaster as part of his Pan-Africa movement. So at the end of the day, Gyamfi didn't become just a legend in Ghana, but in whole Africa. Because for Kwame Nkrumah to select you, to have faith in you and send you to Europe to go and learn something and come and introduce you to Ghana, for him to use you as his tool to promote Pan-Africa, movement in Africa, then you are a great talent. You can see those things from Gyamfi when he was technical director for the Ghana Football Association. In those days, we were winning every cup that they assigned the Blasters to go and play. And we got to a time we were representing Africa because of the level of football that we learned from CK and the advice that we got from him. But I was so disappointed that, I don't know, maybe you can correct me. After maybe something have been dedicated or named after CK Gyamfi, I don't know. But if we don't have anything like that, I think that is too bad on behalf of the state. But he is a guy who a lot of big coaches have learned something from his advice and his teachings. And CK Gyamfi was not only a technical man for Ghana. He was working with FIFA. He was working with the CAF, and FIFA especially has very great respect for CK. So CK was a big international figure when it comes to football in all over the world. So if I want to talk about CK, it will take us the whole day. I served under him also in the retired national footballers executive committee, and we spend time with him. And when you go to his house at the North Commission, at his corridor, he has a football pitch on his terrazzo, and if he want to educate you, he brings his mumbles and put it on the floor, and he will start teaching you the guy sleep, eat, dream, everything about football. No wonder when he was in charge Ghana Football Association Technical Department, we were winning everything because he was full of wisdom and technical ideas. So for sure, this is what I can say about him. I have more to say, but for the sake of time,
definitely,
this is what I can say.
Definitely. To wrap up your bit of the conversation, Coach Willie Kluche, just one thing that always stays with you every time the subject of CK Gyamfi and his exploits for Ghana football comes up. What that one thing or that key thing, that always strikes you about him,
It's a funny one anyway. We went to a meeting in his house at North Kalishi. And CK is a Nana.
Yes.
We were there with Mr. Kofi, Mr. Hukai, Tugu Ankara, or the executive committee of the National Retired Football Association. So when he was talking, I crossed my leg and I was listening to him. And he called his colleagues. He said, "Look at this football. He sits in front of me. I'm talking and he has crossed his leg." I didn't know that when you are sitting in front of the coach, a chief, you don't have to cross leg and be listening to him. And there he said he has found him. Oh, Nana, we are in an executive committee meeting. He said, "Yes, but he's a chief."
Did you? So what did you eventually buy?
Yes.
A ram, or a bull?
I was talking even not to buy a whole sheep. So he asked me, he said, "You have to buy one carton of beer and one schnapp."
I see.
So my colleagues have to start begging on behalf. He said, okay, the schnapp, I will take the schnapp, but one carton of beer I have to buy so that
Wow.
we'll use it to beg you.
Well, today we're learning. Thank you. today we're learning. Yeah.
Yes. So he taught me a great lesson. So from that time, when I'm sitting with an elderly person who has achieved some height in life, I don't cross my legs and I sit upright.
Yeah.
And so I remember that thing, and he has taught me a lesson.
Wow.
And even when we are talking to an elderly, you don't tell me what you are saying is not true. You only tell me that maybe you have forgotten about what you are saying. And that is a great lesson. He's a great man.
Wow. Coach, thank you so much. We're very grateful for your time today on the show. Thank you so much, and God bless you. And thank you so much for your service to the nation as well. So, Coach Willie Kluche, a member of the 1978 AFCON winning Black Stars squad, who worked under C.K. Gyamfi's technical direction. During that year, he served as technical director, and the late Coach Osam Dodu was, in charge as head coach. So many interesting lessons. At least today, we're lucky we don't have any chief here in the. But one of you are supposed to take over, his stool, or it's a rotating system.
No, I mean we've been asked, but yeah, I mean essentially what it is. My dad is a chief in Latte. Yeah, Kwapim. And also we have chieftaincy lineage in Okrase, which moves among three families. That is the Gyamfis and the Kumis and Asaris. So when it comes to that point, I mean, one of us might be asked, but none of us are accepting it because we don't want chieftaincy.
No, you need to hold on that one there, because you never know. The guys could just walk into the studio and put the garland around your neck, and that'll be the end of this. Anyway, so you can send in your messages at 055-1111-997, 055-1111-997. Now I'm getting a lot of we're getting the bit of inspiration as well. Like we said, Asamoah Gyan did something that Abedi Pele had done some years ago. Abedi Pele may not have added that much of a twist in terms of bringing so many people together, whom he has now, to make a lot of noise about his autobiography. But Abedi Pele's autobiography was written in the early 90s. Now this has been followed up with that was done by Asamoah Gyan some weeks ago, and now that feel of documenting, exploits and thoughts and processes that people go through to make major achievements, very, very important in our society, and it's blowing a very new wave. And that's where I'll pick this text message from. It's from Tizo in Germany, and he says, please advise Samuel Sekufo to also write a book about his life and how he started to play football and his exploits in Germany. Now, C.K. Gyamfi played for the first time in Germany, and he probably opened the way for Ghanaians, and for that matter Africans, to get the opportunity to play there. The challenges he faced in Germany and how Lothar Matthäus helped him to survive at Bayern Munich. It'll be a very interesting read as well. All right, thank you very much, Tizo in Germany, for that message there. So clearly there's a new wave that is blowing within our space.
Definitely. And I was very happy with the Jam project. Obviously he in terms of the modern era of the Black Stars, he's one of the giants, and for him to have documented the story sort of encourages his other mates to come. I'm sure a lot of them will wait to see who does it first so that they can follow suit. And Jan was very bold. Of course, shout out to Gary for his work on it. In terms of Ghanaian football literature, I believe it's unfortunate how we've not had a lot of it in terms of telling our history. There's this book named A Short History of Ghana Football and the Rise of the Black Star Group. This was written by Ohinijan himself, and you should have a look at it one of these days. features very huge English in there, with how articulate he was. It tells us the history of football in Ghana. I believe CK Gyamfi owned a copy himself. And then there's Ken Bediako's history.
Of course, Ken Bediako's history. Yes, that's
of Ghana football. And apart from these books, there's not a lot of.
Ken Bediako's version is better circulated.
Yes, better circulated. Yeah, he wrote about 10 or so years ago. So there's not a lot of material. So I believe that is what makes this project very, very timely in terms of providing an insight into the past. Of course, it's written from the perspective of somebody who saw it all, so it helps with telling his story as well. And like I was mentioning, if you look at Ghana's major achievements, right, in football, 4 AFCON titles, 3 of them won by CK Gyamfi. 78, he had something to do with it, like you mentioned. In the early 90s, when we were winning all those Youth World Cups, he was technical director of the FA. Asante Kotoko won the Africa Cup first time early 70s. Their coach was Edward Jonah Agrifin. Agrifin played under CK Gyamfi as coach, so there's an influence there. Early 80s, Asante Kotoko won another Africa Cup. Guess who was their coach? Ibrahim Sande. He also played under CK Gyamfi. Early 2000, House of Oak, African champions. Guess who was their coach? Jones Atukwefio. CK Gyamfi scouted him from a secondary school, put him in the 65 AFCON team. So when they describe him as the father of Ghana football, you can see that it has a lot of meaning for them. You understand? In terms of, like you mentioned, a foundational figure, having his hands in almost everything. So I believe that it's a story that a lot of people will find very informative. And I want to mention at this point, Captain retired Dr. Nyaho Tamaklo. He's the chairman for the launch, and I've had a lot of conversations with him. I believe he's listening right now. He has one of the sharpest memories of anybody that I know in terms of recalling football names. He knows all the major football stars from the 50s and 60s, all the stories and all of that. He's a part of the project as well. Mr. Cameron Dodu, who was also an active journalist during the old man's time, he also wrote the foreword to the book. He has also has a wealth of knowledge about CK Gyamfi. And of course, there's Ken Bediako, who has also been very instrumental. There's Mr. Kofi Bedu, current chief of staff for the Asante. He was the pioneer sports writer in Ghana, and he was also very close to CK Gyamfi. In fact, there was a point where, as coach, CK Gyamfi discussed tactics with him. Imagine, in a modern day, a sports writer and a coach discussing tactics before a game. You should imagine how close that they were. So there are a lot of, obviously, personalities in there. Kwame Nkrumah also played a major role in CK Gyamfi. Like, he recounts a whole lot of conversations, a point where they went to his office, so many other things. Hinijan, also in there. E.C. Bryant, also a major character in the story. Mr. Babayara, a lot of people don't know the story behind Babayara. Why the stadium in Kumasi is named after him. There's a story in there about Babayara and how CK Gyamfi mentions that he's the greatest footballer that CK Gyamfi ever saw. So if somebody saying CK Gyamfi was the greatest footballer and CK Gyamfi is referring to another person as the greatest footballer, you could imagine just how good he was. So many other actors within the book that I find very interesting.
So that's why I always like to steer clear of the conversations about
the greatest,
especially here.
It's a very controversial.
I remember that once we had a conversation here on the Joy Sports Arena,
the
greatest sportsman in Ghana. And, they were very interesting. Very interesting dynamics and interesting angles to everybody's argument. I thought it was very interesting, but hey,
everyone played their role.
Everyone played their role, but hey, today is CK Gyamfi's day, and trust me, I mean, the credentials are there. I pray and hope that over the years, and as we put foundations together, and that as we try to rebuild, would have the creation of such big names in sports, so that we can also dominate once again and put the Ghana flag where it's supposed to be globally once again, to put us at the center of all of the attention once again. Now, in terms of the recognition, Coach Willie Kluche made mention of monuments being named after legends, and I do remember that the sports college at Winneba, in the University of Education is named after CK Gyamfi. So it's called the CK Gyamfi Sports College, the CK Gyamfi Sports College that we know. Obviously, I mean, the conversation is still very open. I'm sure that there are many people who would advocate for having his name on maybe a bigger monument or another monument. I don't know. Tell me about it.
Okay, so I mean, I think Jamil did talk about the humility of the man.
Sure.
I suppose that humility obviously is kind of genetic and has been transferred to us as well. We don't really talk about our father in some kind of like in that kind of space where he's a legend and we just see him as he's our father. He did the best for the country. But there's a point where you get to realize that for the sacrifices that he made for the country, there should be a befitting tribute to him.
Sure.
Yeah. I mean, if you go to Nigeria, for instance, you got all these stadia that are named,
Thunder
Balogun Stadium. There's all these stadia that are
MKO
named by-
Abiola Stadium, and I've been to one in Abeokuta.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And there's also a
Ogun
story
State,
behind the Babayara Stadium itself, which I don't know whether this is the platform for me to actually speak
Go
about
ahead,
it.
go ahead.
But essentially, it was going to be named after Gyamfi.
Okay.
And he did tell us
Okay.
that, but for some reason, there was some kind of disagreement at some levels, and they decided to name it after Babayara. And then to compensate, they decided to name the sports college after him. But I mean, I think he's bigger than that, to be honest.
Great.
Yeah. So I kind of I'll probably leave it here as it is, but definitely for one person that has put his life down for the country, sacrificed, because even in Germany when he was playing professional football, he could have remained and played in professional football because he signed a contract with them, and he decided to Kwame Nkrumah decided to bring him back. So he found it quite difficult to tell them that, look, my country needs me. Yeah. So he was a patriotic person, and I think he deserves much more than that.
Okay, so
Yeah.
Fifi, let's take ourselves out of this situation for a bit. Take yourself out of that skin as the biographer for this project, and let's talk about this subject. I feel that it's a very important one. I'll give you an example so that it doesn't look like we're being subjective or something. Look, the Azuma Nelson Sports Complex, for instance, and let me tell you what I personally feel about it. I think it is. I mean, what we see now is a lot of disrespect to Azuma Nelson for what Azuma Nelson has done for this country. I mean, when you go there now, I mean, you go, you're looking for people to talk to. There's nobody to speak to, obviously, because it is a project that is being pursued or being done by the political administration. So technocrats on the ground are unable to tell you what really the problem is. But look, I mean, we've gone how many years? And it's such a sorry sight. I mean, I have friends who have offices there. Some of them have an aerial view of the place, and it is so sorry. It's a sorry sight. I mean, looking at what Azuma Nelson represents in the world of boxing. I mean, if Azuma Nelson flies out of Ghana and attends a WBC convention, you'd have to go through security to talk to him or even have a photo with him. I mean, that is how serious it is. And this is his home country. I mean, at the point when Azuma Nelson was active and was making those achievements as a world champion, Ghana needed that because we had come through an era of political instability. The people needed something to look up to push all of them to work and to add their energies to the national agenda. And this is what is happening. So look, it's right, and I feel that it's okay if we talk about it. Tell me what you feel about this, Fifi.
I think that you see, in any endeavor where human beings are involved, there's always going to be some controversial issues in terms of who deserves what, and it's normal. It goes beyond the conversation of what you have achieved.
Very well.
Right. It's about how people feel about you. And I'm glad that Edwin mentioned the humility of Gyamfi. I think that was one of the things that struck me about him. This is a man who's like larger than life. You understand? I've personally met a lot of people in this country who have achieved one thing or the other, and they are not as humble as Gyamfi was. Gyamfi was very heartwarming in his approach. He was very, he would come down to earth to interact with you, and he wasn't really concerned with whether people were. But as far as I know, I don't know what the children experienced in terms of growing up with him. But from my experiences with him, I never got the sense that he was worried about people not mentioning his name enough, given all that he has achieved. One thing that he constantly complained to me about, though, was the fact that he didn't understand why we keep going in for foreign coaches. That's one thing that he was very passionate about. He just couldn't understand. I remember one time I was having a conversation with him and he mentioned Kwesi Appiah. He said it hurt him a lot, the way people were always criticizing Kwesi Appiah without basis. He felt like you can criticize somebody when the person is not doing well, but he felt like some of the criticisms of Kwesi Appiah were very derogatory, and it was only because he was a local coach. That's how he felt, and he himself went through something like that. 60, he won AFCON 63, Ghana 65, Tunisia 68. I believe it was Ethiopia. He was supposed to have been in charge of the team. What happened was the government went in for a student to come and coach the national team, and he was national coach. He was relegated to the background, so he could have won a hat-trick of titles in the 60s, but because of the politics of the color of one's skin, he couldn't coach the side. So this was something that he was very passionate about. He was always saying that, why is it that we don't believe that a black man can also manage people? You understand?
And was that Coach Carlos Pereira?
Yes, Carlos Alberto Pereira.
Yeah.
And he came in
the World Cup.
68. He won the World Cup later in 94. He was
the old man's junior.
The old man's junior. And when he went to the University of Rio in 65 to study coaching, and Carlos Pereira came to Ghana, and then he even mentioned that CK Gyamfi was one of the greatest players that he ever saw. Because when they were at the university, they played some football match, and he saw CK Gyamfi play. So CK Gyamfi was, obviously he had nothing against Pereira. He mentioned in the book that he believed that Pereira was a brilliant student. But it was unfortunate how we used to think in that era, right? That, this guy, he's a black man, he can't manage us.
So that was the politics at the time that we're talking about. I mean, going back to the subject of how we honor our legends, so to speak. This is very transparent in the UK. I mean, it's not a taboo subject at all. This is a subject that is easily discussed. I mean, at local level, at national level, with opinions, and so the discourse is there. But it seems, people seem to retract from having such discussions like this over here. I mean, you mentioned Asma Nelson. Of course, he's a giant. I mean, he's one of the greatest, in the annals of sports in this country. I mean, so it's not like we want our doubts on anything per se. It's a matter of, I mean, it's a subject that should be discussed. We should have a transparent look at how we kind of
come across and settle on these things.
Exactly.
Yes. Sure. We'll be wrapping up the show very shortly. We've got just about some 12 minutes to call it a show this afternoon. So you send in your messages. We'll be activating the phone line very shortly so you can join us. Now, Kweku from Lakeside is making a big request. He says that, good afternoon. These autobiographies are great and awesome. How can these be put into visuals as well? So he's asking, for like a documentary, an audiovisual documentary version as well. That's something that could be considered later on, right?
I
think so.
The unfortunate thing with CK Gyamfi is that most of the material in terms of visuals from his era, we believe, or we've heard that they got destroyed in a fire or something like that.
Right,
so even I never got to see, and I would have really given anything to see the man in action, because it was just too good to be true that people would praise him in that respect. I really wanted to see what that was about. It's unfortunate, but I believe leaving such documented is
Gentlemen,
the right way to go.
This has brought up a very important aspect of our lives as a people, which we need to discuss. Now, today, the launch of CK Gyamfi's book is bringing up something very crucial, and I believe that it's just a good time, and we need to applaud your efforts. We need to applaud the efforts of Asamoah Gyan and all those who have followed along these lines. Archiving, record keeping, recently Cristiano Ronaldo scored, at Euro 2020, and everybody started praising him for scoring at 9 consecutive tournaments. But hold on, Asamoah Gyan had done that earlier. But because the Ghanaian media were not spearheading it and talking about it, it would have gone, unnoticed. And so it has brought up a very big conversation about our archiving, our record keeping, our data entry systems for our sport, which eventually become pots of gold and platinum.
Yes.
Absolutely.
I believe it's I remember there was even a conversation before Asamoah Gyan became the top scorer for the national team. There had not been any records kept, and people were talking about how Edward Aqua from the 60s had scored a particular number of goals, and nobody could prove how many goals he has scored. And hats off to my late colleague Thomas Freeman Yeboah. Yes, he was really
Thomas
good.
Freeman was very passionate.
He was very passionate about record keeping and data. I saw the work that he did for Ghana football in terms of even there was a point where people got the amount of titles Asante Kotoko had won wrong, and it took Freeman to come and settle the score. So that's how bad it is. That we have a national league and we don't know how many titles a team has won.
Wow.
I think it's an indictment on our sense of appreciating where we've come from, and something really needs to be done about perhaps a football museum or a sports museum, to celebrate.
I do remember that during the era of Dr. Mustafa Ahmed as Minister for Youth and Sport, a conversation like that came out. In fact, this was one thing that he really, really was passionate about and wanted to get done as a matter of urgency. But hey, this is political administration and its dynamics, reshuffles and all of these things. I also do remember that Honorable Kwejo Banredu of blessed memory also had that on his plate. The late Honorable Osei Kweku as well also had that, that museum idea on his plate. So this is something we urgently need to work on. 0302 216-541 0302-216-541 0302-216-541. Let's get talking and let's have this conversation. Hello, good afternoon, and thank you for joining us. Just before we get into the phone-in segment, for those of you who love gaming and love football on the console, there is a very big opportunity that has been put together. FIFA has put together that opportunity and that idea for people who are into football gaming to, come together and see who becomes the best. So a qualification event is being put together at the Alisa Hotel, and Joy Sports Lawrence Beidou is there at the moment and has updates for us. Lawrence, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much.
Okay, very well. Tell me, bring us up to speed on what's been happening so far, level of participation, the kind of skill you're seeing, and how good we're looking if we are to present a representative at the Maiden World Cup in December.
Yes. So if our followers or our listeners have been briefed in some time now, this is an organization from the FIFA in collaboration with Gyamfi to ensure Ghana has a representative at this year's E-Nations Cup, which will be happening in Denmark. So currently, there are eight groups contesting with four members in each group. A lot of games have been played so far, but then I can only bring you updates from the groups that have finished in their games. So in group A or in group 1, we have Flo Bena France, and then Oscar progressing to the next round of competition. And then in group 2, Jonas and Prince Jonas and Mulich also secure their qualification to the round of 16 as well. Group 3, White, Makers and Loki are through to the next round of the competition. Wonder Cake, as we all know, one of the top gamers in the country, currently tops the table in group 5, with Pretty Boy Girls sitting comfortably in the second position. Lots of games still to come by way of group stages, but with the ones that have been so far, now this has been happen.
All right. Sure. Thank you very much. And we sure are going to be getting updates on Monday's edition of the Joy Sports Center. Thank you very much. Now let's get on the phone lines. Hit the keypad and get through to us. We can squeeze in 2 or 3 phone calls as we celebrate the legacy of CK Gyamfi here on the Joy Sports Link. There's a message here from St. Petco in Dodowa. Okay, but before that, do remember it's 0302-216-541. 0302-216-541. Nat, Neo Datilamte has also written an autobiography, not just Asamoah and Abedi Pele. Yes, that's very true. And I do remember that Neo Datilamte took a trip to Anderlecht, where he was honored. He was honored and was recognized greatly for his contributions there. Okay, hello, good afternoon. Thank you for joining us on the Joy Sports Link.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us on the show.
Okay, you can call me Garman.
Yes, sir, Garman. Thank you for joining us.
Yes, please. I'm a bit worried over something you have just expressed. You have been able to give a chronology of people who have been in authority and have expressed the desire for us to have a very good record keeping. So, well, you know about this, but those people happen to be political figures and they have been desisted from the sport. Can't you, as a sports personality, take it up?
Yes, that is a good.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Gaman, thank you so much. I do agree with you 100%. It doesn't necessarily have to be the political figures. This can actually be a private initiative, but we all do appreciate as well that all these achievements that were made on the shoulder of the state and on the platform of the state. So there sure has to be a certain level of collaboration. But I do agree with you 100% that in terms of initiating it and championing it, it could come from anywhere, including us, the sports media. That is very, very true. Thank you very much. Hello, good afternoon.
Hello, good afternoon.
Thank you for joining us on the Joy Sports Link.
Yeah, thank you too. For a wonderful afternoon discussion on football. My brother, with the archives, it has been worrying some of them for far longer time because there have been good football matches that have been played before, which was a time it should be shown to us for the boys to know that there were some people who were very patriotic and they played the football with their heart. And when you work with them on the shelf, the way they displayed. Yes, you have spoken a lot. You have actually forgotten one day. And I would like to mention that somebody like Mr. Kofi, I think he is sleeping. He is strong and kicking. Now he's Reverend of Kofi. He had the opportunity to go and play outside Africa. But he said, no, I'm not going. When he was called the Disney magicians, he said he would not play. But he loved the country and he came back. These are the things that we have to know and the youth have to know. And it shouldn't be everything money. That is what is affecting our football today. The love of money have affected our football. But if we should put a little bit of patriotism, we will go far.
Thank you.
I like your discussion today. I think this should always be coming up. And let me ask you this question. Please, those people who won the third African Cup for Ghana, are they all in this? Is where I end my case.
Okay, thank you very much. Just going over it, I think he was just asking if they're all alive. Is that what he said? If that is it, yes. We spoke to one of them on the show. Willie Kluche spoke to us here. He's a member of the 1978 AFCON.
There's Dodo Ankara who is still alive. There's John Botte now, so many of them.
Sure. John now, very well. Who used to be goalkeeper of Accra Great Olympics as well. All right, gentlemen, thank you so much. In 15 or 20 seconds each, let's just look ahead to the event proper. Okay. Let's begin with you. Sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is this is an event that, for me, it's for the great footballers that we've had for the Black Stars, especially the old footballers, the guys that played in the 70s and the 80s, and for those who played in the 60s that are alive, that is a bonus. So, I mean, we're celebrating them because they're part of, my dad's the foundations of actually bringing our game, our reputation as a footballing nation to where we are.
Okay. So, details of the launch?
All right, so it's on Thursday, the 19th of May, at the Ghana Academy of Arts and Sciences at 4 p.m. Let me just acknowledge Mr. Harold Korte, who also... Mr.
Harold Korte,
yeah,
very well.
He did a lot of research on this project, and his material really helped with putting this book together.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Patrick Gyamfi, Mr. Edwin Gyamfi. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Fifi Anaman, as well. I'd like to say a very big thank you to the rest of the Joy Sports team for the production support. Coming up very shortly is the Joy Headline News at 2. And before we go, we'd like to say a very big happy 65th birthday to the Archbishop Nicholas Duncan Williams. And gentlemen, greetings from Charles Mensah and Oraka. They trace roots to North Kaneshie.
Oh, okay.
So we'll go straight to Mami Nyamiche Thompson to bring us the Joy Headline News at 2. My name is Nathaniel Atto, and I have love for sport.
Hello and welcome to Joy Headline News at 2. I am Amiesi Thompson. Residents in parts of Accra reeling from